The booster was supposed to splash down gently in the Gulf of Mexico. Instead, Booster 19 tumbled out of control and crashed into the sea at high velocity, live on camera, watched by millions, going dark on the stream right before impact. Starship Flight 12 launched on May 22, 2026. The most powerful rocket ever flown left the ground successfully. Hot staging worked. Ship 39 made it to space. The Indian Ocean splashdown was controlled. SpaceX's communications lead, Dan Hoot, called it an incredible success for the program. Elon Musk called it epic. And somewhere between the launch and the crash, a super heavy booster carrying some of the most powerful rocket engines ever built lost control and hit the Gulf at transonic speed. So what actually happened? What failed? What did it prove? And what does it mean for everything that comes next? Here is the full forensic picture of what we know. 3 days before the crash, there was a scrub. May 19th, the first launch attempt, was aborted at T-minus 40 seconds when a hydraulic pin in the Mechazilla tower arm could not complete its retraction sequence. The arm was still physically connected to the vehicle when the automated systems caught the fault and called a hold. SpaceX teams worked overnight on the hydraulic system. May 21st brought a second attempt. The hydraulic issue was resolved, but a separate ground system anomaly emerged and the window closed without a launch. May 22nd was the third window. This time, everything on the ROST ground cleared. Booster 19 and Ship 39 left the pad at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right at the opening of the window. The first anomaly appeared at ignition. One of the 33 Raptor 3 engines failed to ignite during the startup sequence. One engine out of 33. SpaceX's vehicle control system detected the shutdown, compensated by redistributing thrust across the remaining 32 engines, and continued the ascent without loss of control. This is exactly the engine out tolerance the V3 architecture was designed to provide, and it worked exactly as designed. At T plus 2 minutes and 20 seconds, hot staging separation occurred. Ship 39's 6 engines ignited while still physically connected to Booster 19 through the integrated hot stage ring. The separation was clean. Ship 39 continued upward on its suborbital arc. Booster 19 began to reorient for its boost back burn, and then things went wrong. The boost back burn, the engine firing that arrests the booster's forward momentum and sends it back toward the launch site, did not execute correctly. Multiple sources confirm that the burn was off-nominal, with several engines failing to relight or failing mid-burn. The Fandom Wiki entry on Flight 12, drawing from telemetry data and webcast commentary, describes the booster's boost back burn as having several missing engines, causing the booster to spin out of control. Interesting engineering reports that the engines needed for the landing burn failed to relight properly, causing the booster to tumble and break apart after hitting the sea. Space.com quotes SpaceX's Dan Hewitt live during the webcast. The booster didn't complete its full boost back. In the webcast footage visible to millions of viewers, Booster 19 can be seen tumbling. Attitude control lost, the long cylindrical body of the booster rotating in a way that no landing algorithm could compensate for, before the live feed cut to black. The flight termination system was intentionally left inactive on Flight 12. SpaceX made this decision deliberately. Knowing that FTS would normally destroy a vehicle that was behaving unpredictably, they chose to let the booster continue its uncontrolled descent to gather as much telemetry data from the crash sequence as possible. Booster 19 transmitted live video from its external cameras until impact. SpaceX received data from the tumble, from the partial re-entry, and from what happened during the final seconds when one of the 13 landing engines managed to ignite, only one, and Booster 19 hit the Gulf of Mexico at transonic speed. Not a controlled splashdown, a transonics impact. The booster was destroyed, no hardware was recovered. Now the forensic question, what actually caused the boostback failure? The answer is not yet public. SpaceX has not released an official root cause statement, but the data available from public sources and the physical sequence of events allows a structured analysis of what most likely happened. The boostback burn uses a subset of Booster 19's 33 Raptor 3 engines, typically the inner ring of engines, positioned around the central axis of the booster. For the boostback burn to fail with multiple engines missing, one of several things must have occurred. The most common candidate in this class of failure is a propellant feed issue, something in the main propellant supply lines, the ullage pressure system, or the engine valve sequencing that prevented propellant from reaching multiple engines simultaneously during the relight sequence. A second candidate is a guidance system issue. The vehicle computed the wrong engine start command sequence, or the flight computer received incorrect attitude data that caused it to command an engine configuration that could not sustain controlled flight. A third candidate is thermal damage from the hot staging event. The ignition of Ship 39's engines, while physically adjacent to Booster 19, produces extreme heat that has caused damage in previous hot staging events. If the Raptor 3 engines on Booster 19's top ring sustained thermal damage during hot staging that reduced their ability to sustain combustion during the boost back relight, the burn could fail in exactly the way described. The single landing engine that managed to ignite during the final descent phase is a significant data point. If the entire propulsion system had failed completely, no engines would have ignited during the landing burn sequence. One engine igniting suggests that individual engines were still capable of starting, but that the configuration required for a sustained, stable burn across multiple engines did not materialize. This is consistent with a propellant distribution problem rather than a complete electrical or software failure. It also confirms that Booster 19's flight computers continued to execute the landing burn commands all the way to impact, attempting to perform a controlled landing even as the vehicle was tumbling at transonic speed. The systems functioned, the hardware failed them. While the booster was falling, Ship 39 was succeeding. This is the part of the Flight 12 story that gets lost in the drama of the booster crash, and it should not be lost because what Ship 39 accomplished on this flight is the data that SpaceX actually needed most. Ship 39 lost one of its 3 vacuum-optimized Raptor engines during the ascent. 1 engine out of 6, 4% of the ship's total propulsion. The remaining 5 engines compensated. The 3 sea-level Raptors and 2 vacuum Raptors continued burning. Ship 39 maintained its trajectory, and the upper stage reached space. This is the second engine-out demonstration of Flight 12. The booster flew on 32 of 33. The ship flew on 5 of 6, and both vehicles maintained control under engine-out conditions. The V3 architecture's design tolerance for engine loss was validated twice in a single flight. In space, Ship 39 accomplished multiple mission objectives. The 22 Starlink simulator payloads deployed, the 2 inspector satellites, the spacecraft designed to image Ship 39's heat shield from the outside, separated and maneuvered into position. The Raptor engine relight in space was attempted. The rear flap structural stress maneuver was executed. The banking maneuver that practices the return to starbase guidance logic was flown. And Ship 39 re-entered the atmosphere with its near-complete heat shield, only 1 tile intentionally missing, and survived re-entry in a configuration closer to operational than any previous Starship flight. The Indian Ocean splashdown was controlled. The ship hit the water at a planned location. No flight termination was required. No loss of control occurred during re-entry. Teslarati's comprehensive post-flight analysis concluded Starship V3 reached space, survived re-entry, and proved it can fly with engines out. That is the foundation everything else has to be built on. The booster crashed, the ship did not. Pad 2 survived. This is another data point that deserves explicit attention. The second launch pad at Starbase, built from scratch alongside the V3 development campaign, never previously used, sustained minimal damage from the liftoff of 33 Raptor 3 engines producing 9,240 metric tons of combined thrust. The water deluge system performed correctly. The hold-down arm release sequence worked. The flame trench and the launch mount held. The lesson from Pad 1's destruction in the first Starship launch in April 2023, when the pad was shredded by the engine exhaust, has been applied at Pad 2. It worked. Pad 2 is intact. It can support Flight 13. There is a financial timing dimension to Flight 12 that Teslarati's analysis captured explicitly. SpaceX publicly filed its S-1 registration statement with the Securities and Exchange Commission on May 20th, 2026, 1 day before the second launch attempt and 2 days before the actual launch. The document that reveals for the first time SpaceX's full financial picture to public investors was published while Booster 19 was still on the pad. And when Flight 12 launched 2 days later, the company that had just entered the public IPO process demonstrated to the market that Starship V3 can fly, that the world's most powerful rocket can survive engine-out conditions, that its upper stage can reach space and return, and that the infrastructure underlying the entire Starlink growth story continues to advance. The booster crash is a setback. The ship's success is the proof of concept. For a company targeting a $1.75 trillion IPO valuation, the timing of that proof of concept could not have been better arranged. What does the booster crash mean for the program's timeline? The FAA will investigate. Under standard launch licensing procedures, a mishap. Investigation is required before the next Starship flight can be authorized. The investigation will focus on the boost-back failure, why multiple engines did not relight, whether the cause was a design issue, a manufacturing issue, or an operational issue, and what corrective action is required. SpaceX's internal investigation team was already analyzing telemetry data within hours of the crash. The FAA mishap investigation timeline is typically 4 to 8 weeks for a telemetry. If the root cause is identified quickly and the fix is straightforward, Flight 13 could be authorized in late July or August 2026. If the investigation reveals a systemic design issue requiring significant hardware changes, the delay extends. For the Artemis program, the booster crash does not materially change the timeline from where it already was. Tom Percy, NASA's HLS program manager, was waiting for a propellant transfer demonstration, not a booster catch. Ship 39 deployed its simulators and flew its mission profile. That is the data Percy needed to see from Flight 12's ship objectives. The booster crash is a separate vehicle element with separate certification requirements. Booster 19 did not need to successfully splash down for the ship-side HLS development data to be valid. Those two tracks are not interdependent at this stage of the program. SpaceX called Flight 12 a success despite the booster crash, not because the booster crash was acceptable. It was not, and they know it. Because the word success in the context of a test flight means something specific. Success means the flight produced the data it was designed to produce, advanced the program toward its next objective, and demonstrated the capabilities that needed to be demonstrated. Flight 12 demonstrated that V3 hardware can fly, that Ship 39 can survive, an engine loss and reach space, that Pad 2 is operational, that the heat shield performs in near-complete configuration, and that the booster's boostback system needs to be fixed before any catch attempt is credible. Every one of those is useful information. 2 of them are mission success. 1 of them is the next problem to solve. The next flight will solve it. Booster 19 crashed. Booster 20 is already in testing. The program does not stop because one vehicle hit the water at the wrong speed. It diagnoses what went wrong, fixes it, and launches again. That has been true since the first Starship left the ground in April 2023 and the pad exploded beneath it. The pile of wreckage in the Gulf of Mexico is not a failure of the program. It is data, and SpaceX builds the next flight from data. One detail from the booster's final moments that has not received enough attention. Booster 19's cameras were transmitting live video from inside the engine bay during the tumble and the partial landing burn attempt. That video, the feed that went dark at impact, was not just spectacle. It was engineering data. The orientation of the booster during tumble, the pattern of engine flame visible from the camera positions during the landing burn attempt, the acoustic signature captured by onboard sensors during the impact sequence, all of this is in SpaceX's data archive. The crash was not just a crash, it was an instrumented crash. A crash that transmitted everything it could before it stopped transmitting. In a program built on the philosophy of test, like you fly and learn from every outcome, an instrumented transonic impact of a super heavy booster is not nothing. It is the most extreme booster data point the program has ever collected. And the engineers who designed Booster 19 are going through that data right now, looking for the moment when the propellant feed failed, looking for the engine that first went out, looking for whatever it was that started the sequence that ended with one engine firing alone, and a 120-meter rocket hitting the Gulf of Mexico at Mach 1. They will find it. They always find it. And when they find it, Booster 20 will not have it. That is how this program has always worked. That is how this program will always work. Booster 19 taught the lesson the hard way. Booster 20 gets to learn it the easy way. Flight 13 is already being planned. The crash is already being analyzed. The next step is already in motion. SpaceX called it epic. The booster hit the water at Mach 1. Both of those things are true at the same time. And somewhere in the telemetry archive of a vehicle that nobody's going to recover from the Gulf of Mexico, the answer to what went wrong is waiting to be found.